see you, Alex. You a fucking fool for this shit. Appreciate that one. S. I think it's time to put them in their place. I'ma have to set them straight. You don't know me. You don't know where I'm from or what I had to do to get this plate. Hey, let me paint a picture. Everybody dissing, acting like it wasn't cool to listen. Now look at me. I say now look at me.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the YouTube channel. Welcome back to another episode of the One Chance Pro Debut Prep Series. This will be episode 5, so I'm keeping to my promise. This is number 5 in 5 weeks. You guys really enjoyed the last one I did, which was about the bunk cycle. But I'm particularly interested in whether you enjoyed the one before that, which was Gigi, because Gigi's back today. Obviously, last time I went for a bit of a training session. There wasn't too much focus on training. It was more about the announcement of the show. However, today is going to be purely based on the most effective pull workout. So I have 2 pull days in my rotation. This is probably the harder one for me. It's a lot of unilateral work. It's heavier, I'd say. It's some movements that are a lot more taxing. So we're going to take you through that. I'll take you through why I'm doing these movements, in what order, and why I think they're most effective, as well as obviously talking through some top tips for execution and intensity. So I hope you enjoy this video. Again, like I said, we've got Gigi back, which I'm very, very happy with. And let's get into it. And before I forget, whilst we're still at the start of the video, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, because we're trying to grow this damn channel. Okay, so the setup for today, like I mentioned, there's quite a lot of unilateral work. So we're going to start with the supinated hand pull down. As you've seen, I'm just going to do a couple of warm-up sets, work up to my working weight, which will be 80 kgs per side, 4 pp's per side. We're then going to go into a low row. This was like a standing DY row, but I'm just finding that with the weight that I was getting up to, stability was becoming an issue. So I'm going to do a low row. That will be bilateral. I'm just going to aim to really drive the weight, drive my elbows out, target that upper back a bit more. Then go into a dumbbell row, so single arm dumbbell row, followed by a chest supported row, but a machine version. So then fully braced at that point. We'll finish off back with some chin ups, so 2 sets to failure, and then we've got some delts and arms at the end. Probably not quite as tidy as I'd like. I think I've lost a rep there. I often find with some hammer strength machines, from gym to gym, they feel slightly different. I don't know if they update them and change them, but that felt heavy. But anyway, we'll call that 5.5 reps. And I've also, with imbalances, people always ask, what are you going to do if you've got one lat bigger than the other, which I actually do. I always just start with the weaker side first. So if I'm doing unilateral work, start with the weaker side. You don't want to start with the strong side. Get 8 reps and then find out you only got 6 on your weaker side. Obviously also fatigue builds into it, so a few things to think about there. I think you could tell, I could definitely tell. That left certainly felt easier. I probably could have gone for 7 there, which is why we do the weaker arm first. So a couple of things with this movement. And to be honest, with starting any back day, I'm very, very keen to take my lat through their full contractile range. So this one's brilliant for it, because at the top I'm getting a huge stretch. The lat is fully lengthened. And as I drag in, I'm really thinking about It's all through the elbow. The straps help even more with that, because then you can always forget about your hands and your grip. Pulling down, dragging the elbow down. Once it's here, I'm really just thinking about twisting in. So, well, twisting my Latin. It's a bit of external rotation, and then we just really look to crunch it in. The reason we do this unilaterally, or I like to do it unilaterally, is because then you can allow a bit of lateral flexion. So that will also help with getting the lat fully short. So we've shortened it here, we can now also shorten it here. And I find if you ever struggle to connect with your lat, spend some time in that shortened range. So get it really, really short, contract it hard, twist into it, crunch into it, and that's going to set you up for the rest of the session. And I'll do that on all my days to make sure that the lat's fully firing before we go into heavier work. I know this machine. I had this one at King's. This is what I mean with different machines. This is a hammer strength low row, but it's different to the one at Muscleworks, and it's the same as the one at King's. And I think I can load this one up ridiculously, but we'll see. Famous last words. So you'll see us do this a lot on pressing. Machines like, particularly like a machine chest press. Or you've seen us do it on the Cybex before back at Crayford. Same reason here. If I start without that block, my shoulders are really, really coming into a lot of protraction, and it's just very uncomfortable. You'll be able to see if I had to start all the way down here, how much I have to come around here, which just ends up being uncomfortable, and then I have to go from this position to a more neutral position even to start. So starting like this, I can start comfortably. Obviously they're going to drop out, hopefully not on mine or Gigi's toes, and then we'll get into the set. Movement to there, that was obviously bilaterally. A few reasons I've moved on to this from that. As you can see, completely different arm paths. So we're coming from up here, and now we're just coming from down here. It's going to be there's a lot less lat working on here. I can feel it much more in my upper back. So I'm thinking about traps, rhomboids, even rear delts are going to come into this. You can probably see as well that there's a lot more stable, a lot more sort of calculated in terms of tempo. So the last few reps on that movement on the supinated pull down, bit kind of forced, a lot of body movement. On here I'm focusing on keeping my chest fully on that pad. I'm almost pulling into the pad rather than pulling the weight away. So I'm keeping fully locked in, stability's all there. I was thinking about driving out but also up. So obviously the difference is we've gone from going in here, wrapping that elbow around, so I'm almost driving up and out with the elbows as much as possible. So as I say, I can feel that way more across that upper back, which is really where I need that thickness. I need that lumpy, bumpy look across the top of my back. So that's what I've got in this in next. And then obviously next we'll go on to the dumbbell row, which will be more lat, but slightly different to the supinated pull down. What's quite nice about this one, and I think it's probably the reason why you can load up quite heavily, is that as you pull the weight back, the load starts shifting above the axis of rotation, which facilitates quite a big drop off. So as we get weaker up here, that's getting easier. So down here where that lat is somewhat lengthened, sort of probably mid to lengthened range, it's hard, and then it gets easier, drops off, until up here, which is why, again, I'm trying to be really, really slow and controlled with this movement, so I'm completely in control of it and completely taking advantage of the mechanics of the machine. This is a movement that I recommend everyone to film when they're doing it, because it's one that A, gets butchered, but I think because it gets butchered so much, you think your sets are shit. Oh, that felt shit, but I know that it probably would have looked quite good. I'll have to see when I watch the video, but in terms of like range of motion, I wouldn't worry about going all the way back on this. This is gonna get harder as you get stronger, as you get weaker, sorry. So again, similar to the supinated pull down, as I come through here, it's getting, if you want to get all the way back here, it's quite far away from your shoulder. So it's kind of going, it's going to be easier from here. It's getting harder, it's getting further and further away from the point of rotation. So as you can see, that's directly in line. Minimal moment on. As we get back here, it gets a bit bigger, bigger, bigger. So it's going to get really hard. The reason I think we've got this in, we've fatigued the lat throughout its kind of full contractile range there, where it's when it's not fatigued. I've then moved on to a bit more of an upper back movement again, that drops off in the shortened range. This one gets harder in the shortened range, so actually we're challenging the lat where it's now strongest as we're fatigued, which makes sense because we're not taking away from any other movements by doing this. So as I said, down here, my lat is strong, and this is at its easiest, and then it just gets harder and harder. So that's what I'm saying. You know, it doesn't want to be a half rep. Do try and get here, but on other movements where we're going to try and get here and spend a second in that shortened range, on here I'm not too worried about that. I kind of want to get there and then just come back. So a couple pointers for that movement that I think are super important. Number one is bracing. Like the movements I've done so far, supinated pull down, the low row, my back is largely supported and not really in any sort of compromising position. On this, obviously, especially as you get stronger, you're going to start putting quite a lot of load through one side of your spine in particular. So really, really important to brace. You'll see me there, I'm being careful when I pick the weight up to start with. And I'm bracing on that as I would with a squat or any sort of deadlift variation. So big deep breath in, filling up thoracic and abdominal cavities with air. Think about if you had a belt on, pushing that belt out. And then once you've filled up with air, it's then about bracing hard as if someone's going to punch you in the stomach. That's what I say to my clients. So that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to hold that throughout the movement, trying to keep that lower back neutral, not arching or bending, which may have happened towards the back end of that set. And really, as with any movement where you're loading your spine, if your spine starts to go, that's the time to end the set, regardless of whether your lat's fatigued or not. And then the other thing is for sort of stability and force production. You can see there I've got my front foot forward, so if I'm rowing with my left foot's forward. What that does is stops me rotating too much. So again, not too much sort of risky load or rotation through the spine. Keeps me pretty set, keeps my hips forward. And again, just keeps me nice and stable, ready to drive through the floor as I'm creating force. So I hope to God he gets it. He's certainly big enough. It's going to be about who he comes up against on the day. And I think it's also about what shows he does and what he turns up to. Because, to be honest, when you're as good as Josh is or as good as I was 2 years ago, if you're there or thereabouts, it's just about being the right person on the right day, I think. Josh has already won shows and he did really well at the British finals, so there's no doubt that he's up there. Okay, so that's the last rowing movement. The reason we've got this at the end, it's a few reasons actually. One, we've gone from a really not locked in, sort of unstable environment there to a very, very locked in one here. There's kind of no risk of injury on this if you're not being an idiot. Obviously, once again, Chest is fully locked on that pad. You may or may not have noticed the angle of my body. I'm kind of trying to sit at the back of the seat so that I'm leant forward. And what that means is that my lat gets further lengthened here. If I start here, that's my max range of motion. But here, the degree of flexion there just increases a bit more. And also, if you look at the weight stack, we've got everything on there. So doing this at the start of this session when we're not fatigued at all will probably be not that successful because we're probably going to be getting quite a lot of reps. So that's the reason why this is towards the end when we're fatigued. So stability, locked in, zero risk, and then load. The Cybex row, you've just seen that's the last movement I'll do top and back off on. The next movement is chin-ups, which is 2 to failure. With top sets and back offs, particularly on that movement, I'm really trying to milk it on that back off set. So top set's going to be anywhere between sort of 5 to 9 reps in that rep range, and then back off would be probably 8 plus. When it comes to back off, I'll drop the weight, maybe by 10 or 20%. I think it's supposed to be 20%, but sometimes I'll just drop by 10. And I'm just going to try and either match or beat the reps that I did in my top set, but with like much cleaner form, potentially slower tempo, spending a bit more time in those lengthened and shortened ranges. And as I said, just to really, really milk that movement. I think internal focus is a big one for that back off set. I think it's all well and good going all out on the top sets. Like, I'm completely guilty of that as well. And I think it's a good thing. Like, I want to be as strong as I possibly can. You know, they say intensity breeds density, all that jazz. If you look at the top bodybuilders, they're all strong as fuck. So we're going to try and get as strong as fuck on those top sets, and then when we back off, it's going to be a bit lighter. It'll still be relatively heavy because I want to lift the max load across that session possible, so the max amount of volume, so reps times weight lifted. So I don't want to back off too much, but I just want to make sure the back offs are super, super clean, like that one was there. So yeah, this is the last back movement. Chin-ups, just 2 to failure at this point. We're just milking those lats and all the back musculature for all they've got, really. So that's the pull session done. As you've seen there, we've got a bit of delts and arms tagged on to the end of that. So I've just done crucifix lateral raises. Basically, every session I go through, there's some kind of lateral raise other than my lower body day. Today it's crucifix, in which we use the close cable stack in the cuffs. Prior to that, chins, where we use the D handles. As I said to you before, that's just there to literally take the lat through its full contractile range again, or as best as possible. Completely safe environment, just really taxing the lat until there's nothing left. And then we've used the D handles just to make sure that we've got free movement of the wrist. This is a game changer for me with pull-ups. I remember once using these and then going back to doing it with a fixed position, and it felt awful. I felt weak, the wrists hurt. So this is a great way just to make sure that the wrist can twist freely as you pull up. And also, again, remember what I said at the start, the natural path of the arm or for the lat is to come in here. So if you're fixed like this, it's not really going to be helping. Bit of internal rotation, and then you can get the lat even shorter. So, sort of external rotation, sorry, and you can get the lat even shorter. So that's why we've used those, but you'll see these come up in loads of our sessions. And they're often for that reason. And then obviously we've used both ropes for the push downs. Again, something else I've spoken about before, but it's just again to facilitate a more natural arm path. People doing close grip push downs, or even with one rope, which is still kind of close grip, you can find your wrists, confine your elbows, confine your shoulders to a place where they don't really want to be. That is their natural arm path. So if you can get them to align with that perfectly, you're in a good place. And we've started rope push downs with a slightly lighter set first, just to really prime the triceps. Get them short, spend time in that shortened range rather than going straight in heavy and maybe only getting 78% of the full range of motion. So that was superset with dumbbell bicep curls, and that's the pull session done. So I hope you've learned something today. I'll keep bringing you these training videos. The next one will either be a push one or a leg day, and we'll take you through what we do and why, and what we're doing in the lead up to this show. So hope you've enjoyed the episode. Like, comment, subscribe, and stay tuned for the next one.